Welcome to the Confident Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Anne, mama of two, holistic pregnancy and pediatric sleep consultant, and the founder of Empowered Decisions. In our seasons together, I'm here to help you step into your inner confidence from pregnancy to motherhood. Whether you are preparing to meet your baby or integrating into new mom life, this is a safe space with education and support for your journey. Join me as we raise the vibe of our motherhood collective. Welcome back to the Confident Motherhood Podcast. I'm Anne, your holistic pregnancy and infant and toddler sleep consultant and podcast host. Today, I'm really excited for this topic because weekly I'm having this conversation with new families, educating them on this specific topic as they're preparing for sleep training. Now, I have seen firsthand the power you hold in your hands, being able to improve sleep for your child and keep sleep on a solid, restful path when you have this education and information, because it helps you build your sleep knowledge and sleep problem-solving abilities. And this is also why I take an education-first approach with my families. So today we're talking about the number one thing that you need to know and understand that can immediately start improving sleep for your child. And I know that probably sounds dramatic, but it's true. And I'm going to drop some gems in today's episode that will probably have you like, really? Or moments maybe even like, I never knew that. Which is fun, and it's going to help you expand your sleep knowledge for your bebe. This thing that we're diving into today is crucial to understand when sleep training, 1000%. But I truly want moms, I want parents to understand the power of understanding how this works just in general for your own babies and toddlers, because we don't come home from the hospital or the birth center, whatnot, with a guide to our child's sleep at all. And today you're going to get some good inside scoop to one of the main factors that affects your child's sleep. Let's do it. This thing is called sleep pressure. And what we're talking about today is how it affects your child's sleep for better and what happens when there are sleep pressure struggles. I'm going to give you some homework and a resource to help you start improving your child's sleep today. Sleep pressure promotes sleep in the body. So to get a little sciencey with you, there is a chemical called adenosine, which is involved in our homeostatic system. And essentially our bodies produce a higher drive for sleep when this substance is present. Side note, it is believed that there are other substances as well, and we don't really need to get into the depths of the science here. But I just want you to think that sleep pressure is your child's drive or momentum for sleep. And guess what? We desperately need it heading into nap and nighttime sleep. Because sleep pressure is needed not only to fall asleep, but to stay asleep. So in this episode, I want you to have clarity on what happens when we don't have optimal sleep pressure. How does that happen? What does it look like when we're talking about sleep struggles? And ultimately the how, right? So let's dive in there first. Like how? How do we have the sleep pressure struggles? So it happens commonly when babies and toddlers are overtired. And this is usually when they've been awake for too long for their age and overtiredness comes on. And I also share with parents, it's not that your child can't be awake longer, it's that we don't want them to be awake longer. Because when they're awake too long for their age, developmentally, etc., we risk sleep disruption by a loss of sleep pressure. Now, on the opposite side of this, yes, there are also times when babies are put down too early versus staying awake too long, and the body is not ready for sleep, which can cause resistance. So we do always need to find a sweet spot with awake windows, but majority of the time there are sleep struggles, overtiredness, and a loss of sleep pressure is the culprit. Okay, then we have this scenario, and I want you to let me know if you've experienced this, if this resonates with you. So you're helping your child to sleep, like, get sleepy, preparing for bed. So let's say you're holding or feeding, rocking, bouncing, whatever it is. They get drowsy or they fully fall asleep with you, and then you attempt to put them down in their crib or their bed, and they wake up. And now they're crying, or let's say they fell asleep for a little bit of time and then they woke up and they're crying, and you have to start the process all over again, like that rinse and repeat of going back in, helping them down, transferring them, leaving. And sometimes that happens 1 or 2 times, and sometimes it happens many times before parents will report back like, okay, by the time they finally fell asleep. Now, failed transfers, right? Like trying to transfer your baby to their crib or their bed, and it doesn't work. They wake up, whatnot. Failed transfers are frustrating, but really what's happened is it's a sleep pressure disruption. That drowsiness without being able to fall and stay asleep means that they just got a little second wind, and now we have to start the process all over again. we lost that drive, we lost that momentum. And when we lose that momentum going into bedtime, your child now has increased chances of night wakings and early rises. So as we kind of go back to thinking about like, okay, this is your child's drive heading into nighttime. We don't want to lose it in the beginning of the night because now we're dealing with struggles and drama in the middle of the night. I just worked with a family recently that was like, why are we having, this middle of the night waking and it's so hard and they're up and they're upset. And I'm like, look, I want to look at what's happening in the middle of the night, what we're doing in the middle of the night, but I also want to solve for why is this night waking happening in the first place? And usually it means we need to circle back to overtiredness and sleep pressure. Like, where is it? So what does it look like in general, right? What's the list of things that sleep pressure disruption can bring on for your child? Fighting sleep, false starts at bedtime. Essentially, that's when they kind of treat bedtime like a nap. You're waking up like, within 30 minutes or an hour of falling asleep at quote unquote bedtime. So false starts, short naps, extra night wakings. And this list is a very common list of parent frustrations when it comes to sleep or when parents express that their child is having sleep struggles. And I always feel like a sleep pressure investigator. And I'm not kidding. When I start diving in and holistically assessing, I'm like, where is it? Where's the overtiredness? Where's the loss of sleep pressure? And it's exciting to me, not that a family's having sleep struggles, but I always know I'm like, aha, like there it is. Once it is found, once I'm like, there it is, I'm in my mind is like, cue the music because now it excites me because now we can make sleep magic happen. Now, for context, as a sleep consultant, I help families who want their child to learn to sleep independently. What does that mean? It means you can put your baby down in their crib awake and they can fall asleep on their own. Then the next layer outside of being a sleep consultant specifically with holistic sleep coaching is I am ensuring that your child is also on an age-appropriate schedule. We've gotten rid of the overtiredness. We've developed their sleep skills, meaning they can put themselves to sleep, back to sleep, etc. They're eating efficiently and they have a safe and conducive sleep environment. So like that is a whole of like what I do. But I say all of that to say whether you desire for your child to sleep independently or not, you can still improve sleep by protecting and improving your child's sleep pressure. It is a major unlock. So as I was putting together this episode, I wanted to give you an adult example of this because of course, when we're talking about it with children, we're talking about all the struggles that they have. But here's an example, and I'm going to use myself in a scenario that happens commonly in my own household. So it's evening, okay? This is the scene. It's bedtime for my kids. So we're in the 7 to 8 p.m. of the evening window. And as we're doing books, so I'm at like the end of their routine, I'm starting to yawn, and this happens many nights. But after they go down, there's two routes I can take, right? I can take my winding down, getting ready for bedtime, whether that's happening within an hour or two, or commonly what ends up happening, I go hop on a work call. I'm doing dishes. I get back on the computer. I'm tidying the house. All the million things that need to happen when kids go to sleep. But then guess what happens? I'm not tired anymore, at least not like I was. I get a second wind and now I don't fall asleep until like 11 or later. And now I don't have the quality night of sleep that I could have had I allowed that proper unwind in my body to happen, gone and fallen to sleep earlier. So I'm an adult, right? I don't need feeding. I don't need rocking to sleep. I'm not going to cry and be frustrated. Like as I'm falling asleep, I may cry in the morning until I realize how tired I am. But essentially that's what happened. Loss of sleep pressure. I got a second wind. I went to bed too late. Now I'm overtired. Like that's just like a real life example of what happens when we have a build of sleep pressure in the body. And then there's like a dip or a break. We lose some of that sleep pressure and we essentially miss an optimal window for sleep. And that is no different with our babies and our toddlers, our little ones. Also, a side note, if you're like, Anne, I'm not even sure what schedule my child should be on, etc. I want you to head to my site, which is empoweredwithanne.com, and I want you to grab my free guide, 3 Steps to Stress-Free Sleep, because in that guide specifically, I break down awake windows by age, tips by age, like kind of scheduling, my experience over the past 7 years. So I help kind of guide you. I inject some of my own coaching into that schedule. It's not just a chart with times and numbers on it. It has the guidance behind it. And it also has information about sleep pressure and association. So it's also going to come into the homework that I'm going to have you do with regards to sleep pressure and kind of doing your own investigating. So definitely grab that. So our goal when improving sleep and getting rid of overtiredness, I put together a few steps and tips, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, to help you. So step one, I always want you to think about we are getting ahead of overtiredness. Now, you may have heard the follow your child's quote unquote sleepy cues, aka this idea that once you see the yawning and the eye rubbing, that they're ready for sleep. False. It is actually a sign that your child is starting to become overtired. And in toddlers, actually, because a lot of things, baby and toddler sleep is backwards, that overtiredness in toddlers can actually look like hyperactivity. Like all of a sudden they're bouncing off the walls. They've got the zoomies. That is a sign that a toddler is actually getting overtired. And the reason for this is because this means we are starting to lose some sleep pressure, right? We're starting to lose some of that build and that momentum that we desperately need. And what we want is a combination of an age-appropriate awake window or schedule and getting baby down before the tired signs come on. That's what I mean by getting ahead of it. Not necessarily waiting for the sleepy cues to come on. The sleepy cues can guide us, but usually it means now we need to pull up and get sleep before those tired signs come on. And this is complex because we also want babies inside of an age-appropriate window. But as we are troubleshooting and we're problem solving and we're trying to improve sleep, this is a really good starting place by simply not waiting for the signs and trying to get ahead of it. Now, another important thing to note in this idea of getting ahead of the tired signs, because obviously I'm helping families to do this, but I'm also helping families to do this in the combination of their intention of independent sleep skills. Because with helping or aiding your baby to sleep, holding, feeding, rocking, bouncing, pacifier, you name it, yes, you essentially are trying to get them drowsy, right? Because that's the point if you're helping your child to sleep. It still comes along with risk on, is there a failed transfer? Does it work? Those sorts of things. But trying that earlier, even if you're aiding your baby, trying that earlier versus when your baby is overtired and losing their sleep pressure is still going to help with their sleep. Okay, so that's step number one, get ahead of overtiredness. Step number two, and I see this a lot, is kind of going into the room in their routines, even when there's an intention to sleep independently. Turning the lights down dim, kind of getting the room in like a sleepy vibe and turning sound machines on before we're ready for it. And when this happens, like oftentimes we're going to see a loss of sleep pressure because turning off lights, it can signal to the body that it's time for sleep. And then again, we are now disrupting the process before we are ready. And that sometimes can also be enough to start disrupting sleep pressure. And then we have the drowsiness, we lose the sleep pressure, we have the shorter nap or the bedtime resistance. So I recommend that you wait. Wait to turn down the lights and turn on sound machines until your little one is going in the crib. This can be a very easy unlock for improvement. Then we have step number three. I want you to be careful with outings. Outings meaning like a stroller ride to the park, car rides here and there. This is a common scenario I see where parents don't even realize that there was actually an issue with sleep pressure long before the nap, or sometimes even like shortly before the nap even started. So again, stroller, go into the park, you hop in the car for something, whether, your child's just coming with you to run errands. Anytime you are near or close to the nap, or you have a child that just responds to motion, like it doesn't even matter. They could be in the middle of their awake window, not even connected to a nap anywhere, and they could get drowsy. So if you have one of those little ones, I want you to be cautious because anytime there is starting to zone out, yawning, eye rubbing, they start dozing in the car. I don't even care if they doze for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it is, that is an effect on their sleep pressure. So let's say they are on a walk to the park. Coming back from the park, they start to get a little bit sleepy. And you're like, okay, no big deal. Great, nap's approaching. And you get home and you go to attempt that nap and they are pissed and they're fighting it and they're crying. That sleep pressure disruption actually happened when they got drowsy on the ride back. And it's not just that your child's fighting that nap, it is a sleep pressure struggle. Now, a little story time, kind of going back to like a real life scenario that just happened this week where I was helping a mom with a 10-month-old. So I have a monthly membership for families specifically that have gone through the sleep coaching process with me, where they can reach out and get sleep support for kind of like life beyond coaching, like integration, nap transitions, new development, that sort of thing, a continued resource, if you will. And a mom who I worked with when her son was around 4 months, she just messaged me and he's now 10 months. And she was like, Anne, he's barely napping 20 to 30 minutes for his 2 naps. And it's been like this for 3 days. Now, Context, 8 to 12 months. Yep, a very big growing time. And I'm always going to look at age and development. But as soon as she said 20 to 30 minutes versus like 30 to 40 minutes, I said, ooh, loss of sleep pressure. I said, he's overtired. And she was like, but I'm just following, the normal schedule of 3 hours. And I'm like, okay, let's dive a little bit deeper. So I started going down the thing. Are we having any outings in the morning? How is he doing getting to his nap? And once I started getting into detail, she's like, oh, she's like, you know what? There have been some days that he's been put down a little bit over 3 hours. And I do think that I'm seeing some tired signs before his first nap. So added education here. Sleep pressure is naturally very high in the morning. It's low in the afternoon, and there's like this rebuild going into bedtime. So what that means in the morning for babies is they can be a little extra sleepy, right? That pressure is really high. So I told him, like, okay, you have done nothing wrong with your 3 hours of awake time. We don't really have a cushion right now to go beyond 3 hours, nor do we want to. But for the next few days, I want you to pull them back a little bit. I want you to pull them back like 10 or 15 minutes, maybe 2 hours and 45, 2 hours and 50 minutes. I want to get ahead of this overtiredness. Same idea as in step number 1. We want to get ahead of it because once we lose the sleep pressure and you have the short nap, well, there goes the nap. Now they're tired. Now you got to get to the next nap and they're tired and it becomes a vicious cycle. So those are the things where, going back to understanding sleep, okay, 30 to 40 minutes is a normal short nap. 20 minutes is not a nap. That's a long doze essentially. And it's not enough rest. Your baby's not going to make it to their next sleep. So anytime we see those things, I don't care if a baby's 4 months or 10 months or whatever it is, we need to start digging into like, where is the loss of sleep pressure? So I had her make some tweaks to his awake windows immediately. And sleep is figure outable if you understand how sleep works, understand sleep pressure. And that can help babies and toddlers when we make adjustments to immediately start heading sleep in an improved and rested direction. Also, this is a fun fact. When I have families struggling with lots of back and forth at bedtime and false starts, broken sleep, I know, even on night 1 of coaching, that we will be improving and starting to fix that sleep immediately. And why so fast? Because already on night 1, we are creating an environment, a scenario where your baby has optimal sleep pressure heading into night 1. And now we're layering on sleep skills. And that winning combination is how we already start getting healthier rest, even when we're jumping into sleep coaching. I usually tell families, look, you're already experiencing the worst case scenario with like these drama at bedtime and night wakings and short naps. Even though going into coaching usually brings on some nerves, we are already starting to improve their sleep. We are upping that quality. So here is your homework. And you can do this on a notepad or track it on your phone. But for 2 days, you can do longer if you want to. But for 2 days, I want you to track day and night sleep. So for naps specifically, what we're looking for is like, okay, how many naps, right? But when did naps start? How long did they sleep for? When was the next nap? And what this is going to start identifying for you, whether you use an app already for baby tracking, there's tons out there, or you're just keeping notes in your phone, is you're going to start keeping an eye on how long your baby is awake in between their sleeps. And this is going to start to show you this. And quick note, actually, an awake window does not include the fall asleep time. It's just the time that you put them down. Now, if you're aiding your baby to sleep currently, this would be the time that you start to get them down. This would not be essentially like, okay, it took me 20 minutes to get them down. I want you to start that timer from when you're starting it. Sleep duration is going to be like, how long did they actually sleep? But your awake windows are going to be calculated in that way. And I'm going to say that one more time because awake windows can be a little bit confusing. And I'll use timing. Let's say that your child is up at 7 o'clock in the morning and let's say they're 5 months old. So 2 hours later at 9 a.m., you're going to go put them down. I don't care if you're doing independent sleep and you're placing them down in crib awake at 9 a.m. or you're going to aid them with, let's say, rocking and you start rocking them at 9 a.m. From 7 to 9 is that awake window. Now, whether they took a little bit of time to fall asleep independently or took a little bit of time to fall asleep with rocking, once they're asleep, you're noting the duration. Then once they're awake from that nap, that is your start timer for the next awake window, just to help with some like clarity on that. Then you're also going to note in your homework, where are you seeing the tired signs in their awake window? So what you're looking for is like, where are these sleepy signs, right? And same thing, the morning high sleep pressure, it's normal to see some sleepy signs somewhere, but we want to look at the patterns, like where are these signs coming in? So here's an example. Like if we have a 4-month-old commonly is tolerating an hour 40, 45 pretty naturally. But if you're consistently seeing with your 4-month-old that they're showing sleepy signs at hour 20, hour 30, like all day long, then we know that there is overtiredness and we just need to make some adjustments. Getting ahead of sleepy signs, adjusting their awake windows, helping them develop their skills, improve their sleep environment. Like then that's where we start going down the path. By the way, it's what I help families with. So if you need help with that, I've got you. But where you're seeing tired signs is the next part of that. First, you're tracking. We're going to get some data that you can analyze. Then we want to know from the context piece, where are those signs coming in? You're then going to cross-reference this information and their awake window of what you're actually seeing combined with my chart. Again, you're going to head to my site, empoweredwithann.com, and grab in the freebie vault 3 steps to stress-free sleep. And you're going to make your adjustments from there. So example, like your child may need a shorter awake window. This is super common. I'm actually just starting to work with a family right now that they were using the Huckleberry app, and it was telling them for their 4-month-old that he should be awake about 2 hours to 2.25. And I was like, we're going to pull him back. I'm like, he's overtired. He's waking up every 1 to 2 hours at night. He's stuck in 30, 40-minute naps. And while, yeah, sure, those things can be common for a 4-month-old, I'm suspecting a loss of sleep pressure and baby's tired. So we're going to pull back. We're going to pull back into that closer to hour 40, 45 range. And it's not uncommon that whether it's accidental or we've been given an awake window that's not spot on for our child, because again, there's averages on awake windows, but then we need to take it a step deeper on how is it working or not working for your child. And that's the customized piece that commonly I'm helping families with. So to recap your homework, you're tracking, you're looking at where are you seeing the signs. And third piece is you are going to cross-reference with that guide to start identifying, am I in an age-appropriate awake window? Do I need to pull it back a bit? That's going to start helping with some scheduling adjustment to improve your child's sleep pressure. And whatever day, I don't care if you do this at nighttime or you're in the middle of your day and you're like, oh, I'm going to, listen to this episode and I'm going to start doing some homework. Whatever the next sleep is, I don't care if you're going into another nap or another bedtime, whatever it is, this is where you can already start improving. You can already start making changes immediately. Sleep pressure and pediatric sleep is complex, but improving your child's sleep pressure, getting ahead of the sleepy signs, ensuring an age-appropriate schedule, and of course, helping them to develop skills, not creating drowsiness, getting them down awake. This is the recipe for solid, healthy rest. Great naps, sleeping through the night, preventing regressions. I call it laying a solid sleep foundation, no cracks. We don't want any cracks in that foundation because that's what leaves us kind of open when they do hit the next growing time or tooth or whatever. That leaves like this opportunity where sleep could be a problem. But when you have a solid foundation with no cracks, they are able to cope with and move through their development so much easier. And overtiredness is the root of sleep evil. Like I could talk about sleep pressure all day long because I love it. It's fascinating. And my families hear me say it over and over and over again. But truly improving sleep pressure is improving sleep. So it's just such an important thing. And I'm here for you. I know that talking about sleep pressure and all of these moving pieces, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Obviously, I could talk about it, day in and day out or in my sleep, pun intended. But if you want to explore holistic sleep coaching, if you're curious, if you feel this pull to be like maybe this is an unlock for my child and maybe this can improve sleep for my family, book a free explore call, grab the guide, do your homework, and of course, tune in to upcoming episodes this season. This is just the beginning. There's more sleep and mom life topics to come. But thank you so much for tuning in. I love this topic tonight and lots of love until the next episode. Whether you're a tired mom struggling with your little one's sleep or an expecting mom looking for empowerment and advocacy as you prepare for birth, I'm here to show up for you with proven strategies and education to elevate your journey. You deserve to feel heard and given the tools to have success. Mama, you do not have to navigate your pregnancy or sleep struggles alone. Head over to empoweredwithann.com to discover how we can support you. Confidence, empowerment, and peace are just a click away.